You're listening to the iGaming News Podcast, your source for global insights, breaking headlines and expert voices from across the industry. Brought to you by the team at iGaming.news, we go beyond the press releases to spotlight the people and trends shaping the future of betting, gaming, tech and regulation. Whether you're an operator, affiliate, supplier or regulator, stay ahead of the curve right here. This episode is sponsored by TigerBet, one of the newest names in the UK betting market. As a next-generation operator, TigerBet combines live betting, price boosts and best odds guaranteed with a fully integrated online casino. Built for scale, engagement and long-term growth, TigerBet represents a modern approach to operating in the UK's ever-competitive betting market. Discover more over at tigerbet.co.uk and remember, always gamble responsibly. Welcome to episode 2 of the iGaming News podcast. This week, I'm thrilled to be joined by Andy Phillips, Chief Commercial Officer at Sporting Risk, a company at the forefront of betting, forecasting and sports analytics. Sporting Risk combines advanced, predictive modelling with a powerful technology operation to deliver pricing feeds and content to gaming and media companies worldwide. In this episode, we cover Andy's career journey, how Sporting Risk approaches data and modelling, and what's next for the brand as it continues to grow and evolve. Let's get started. I think a great place to start would be your background in the iGaming industry and your role within Sporting Risk. If you could tell us a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on. So I've been in the industry since 2008. Started with Genius Sports back when it was about 40 people, and I was there till 2017. So we were just before the listing. So saw that grow really rapidly over those 9 years, and then stayed supplier side with a few startups. Worked for NASDAQ, the stock exchange company, for 2.5 years. Yeah. Again, still supplying to sports books, sort of more platform based. And then I had a brief stint on the other side of the table, basically with an operator, a Brazilian operator who raised a lot of cash and were growing very quickly, called Relentless, before joining Sporting Risk in the very end of 2022. So just going to 23. And yeah, I think the big appeal there was just like the structure of the business, which we'll talk about in a bit, but just having very unique IP to be able to bring to sports books, which are things that basically weren't really available in the rest of the industry. Right. So my role is basically to find clients for the business, right? So as somebody who worked in the supplier side, I kind of have a bit of an instinct for knowing what operators are going to want. And so it's like shaping the products, deciding what we have internally that we can create products out of and bring to operators, and then find ways to structure them for operators and package them up and make them appealing. And then obviously leverage an existing network to bring these operators on board.
Right. I know obviously you joined Sporting Risk not right at the beginning, but could you tell us a little bit about how the business began and what inspired the company's formation? I know it's a pretty unique story.
Yeah, so they were a syndicate originally, before my time, and I think like the lack of football during COVID, as I understand it, was like a real big driver for them wanting to find other ways to commercialize the IP and the models that they spent a lot of time building. They were working with football clubs, so providing automated analysis to professional football clubs, which would help them understand, the strengths of players, strengths of opposition, who they should recruit, that kind of stuff. I don't think that was super lucrative for the business, so they were looking at ways to help the city understand sport, right? So like, what's the risk in lending to this football club? how does that change if this player's injured? How does that change if if they use that money to buy a player, will they get relegated? That kind of thing. So that's where the name sporting risk comes from, actually. And so I have to explain that sometimes in pitches because it's not quite obvious in terms of what we do now. And then they had some early success supplying products into betting operators via JV with Spotlight Sports Group. And then I joined to essentially take over that effort and go direct to market. So rather than be B2B to C, to directly go B2B and approach operators directly, and then build out a whole sort of new tranche of products. Like the first one being the player props, which is what really got us a foothold in the market.
Great. And over the years, how has the business really evolved from that football-focused predictive model to now covering, I suppose, US sports and a broader portfolio?
Yeah, so like within the business at the time, when I joined, it was a pretty small team. So we had to really prioritise what we had loads of ideas. We knew that player props were sort of like a trend that we could do a good job of servicing. Bet builder side of things, or same game parlay, we were a bit apprehensive because we knew it was a big project. But as we were able to bring clients on board, we decided we didn't need to raise money, and so we just sort of kind of bootstrapped. And then we've been hiring smart maths grads out as much as possible straight out of uni, and being able to grow the team now to expand to be able to tackle multiple sports. So we built the initial load of player product very quickly after I joined. We found a first customer at the ICE show in February. We were live with them on the 1st of May.
Wow.
Provide them with sort of same game parlay type products, pre-packaged on the 1st of June. So everything was able to happen very quickly. I had a small team, very agile. And then we had clients who were asking for like the full same game parlay engine. Took us a little bit longer to develop that, but over the last 18 months, we take it to a place where I think we've got probably the strongest in the market, from at least for soccer. So that's something we're really proud of, and it's like taken a lot of work. And originally we were a bit worried that market was saturated, but as we've gone and taking it to market, we've discovered that there's actually like loads of scope to do new things and more interesting things in that space. So that's been really positive. And then the other thing is like I said, having parallel teams now, we're able to work on multiple sports. So we've got basketball, which is essentially there now, so we'll be releasing that in the next couple of weeks. Ice hockey's been worked on, and then NFL, baseball, cricket are things that we're starting to plan for.
Great. And would you say that prop bets are still increasing in popularity? And if so, is there certain jurisdictions that kind of have a more increasing appetite than others? Could you tell us a little bit about that market?
Yeah, I mean, certainly US and UK, pretty much core to the sports book, right? So if you don't have them in those markets, if you don't have like a strong player props offering, you're massively behind the curve. As singles, but also, obviously this is a big part of the sort of same game parlay bet builder product. It's kind of, other markets are kind of catching up with that, I'd say, so most of Europe is starting to follow that trend. LATAM, certainly, like Brazil, the Brazilian customers love the player markets, shots on target and so on. Africa is probably like the furthest behind that. I don't think anyone's like sort of cracked the UX there for that market, but we'll come up with some ideas, and we put some things to clients in that region. We're about to launch a new products there, which will do well.
Great. And I suppose looking ahead at next year, at 2026, what would you say the trends would be that are most impacting the props market? What do you foresee being impactful in that space?
So, I mean, I think ultimately, the trend has been that social media essentially is giving the consumer better access to the athlete, and that's led to customers or even like fans of the sport wanting to follow the player more than the sport, right? And the athletes have been elevated to sort of superstars above the club and the team, which in some ways not the best thing in terms of the sport itself, but that's kind of like where fans are, and that's essentially how customers want to bet now, as far as we can tell. So there's no sort of sign of that changing at the moment. And that's the way we see the market continue to move.
It'll probably become more prevalent, won't it, as kind of more of these social networks come about. And just moving on to my next question around kind of the way you work behind the scenes. I know that you collect highly granular data internally within the business. And how does that give you a competitive advantage compared to kind of other providers within the gaming and media sectors?
So we collect data. We also buy a lot of data, and I'd say like the initial USP we had was buying granular data from outside the betting industry, at least. So we're buying the types of data that football clubs use, let's say, to assess their individual players. So we want to know how players perform playing alongside different teammates in different systems for different clubs, like against different teams and so on. So it's all very player based that we were focused on. From there, we kind of need to layer over specific data that gives us more, in certain circumstances we might need more accurate data or more granularity in certain circumstances, or we might need faster data. So like a classic example of something which we spend a lot of time on is getting our own lineup data. So we want to know really quickly when the team sheet is announced, right? So we buy that into an extent, but it's not as fast as if we're also out there using like the Twitter API and things like that. We actually collect that data ourselves.
I see. And Sporting Risk has launched several innovative products, such as the Bet Builder Copilot and obviously the player-led Bet Builders. What really were the driving forces behind these launches? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So I mean, it's sort of a combination between things that clients are pushing us for, and then ideas that we generate internally, which we kind of know things are moving in a particular direction, and we want to just try and be a step ahead. We don't want to be too far ahead, because you end up in this industry, if you try to push things that are too innovative and too far beyond what's there currently, then you end up with a lot of nice idea, but people don't want to go and implement those things and take risks. So we're just always trying to push things and generate iterations on what's successful. So the Copilot essentially it leverages something that we have internally, which is the sort of insights bet prompts product, which actually just provides context for customers around different markets that operators are offering, and then use that to essentially walk people through the process of building a same game parlay or a bet builder. So it's taking things that we currently have and saying, right, well, what's the next iteration of that, and how does that improve the UX or improve the product that the operator is putting forward.
And I'm sure this is a question that you probably get asked a lot, but as we've seen a lot of talk about AI and predictive modelling in sports betting, how would you say Sporting Risk is leveraging these trends to stay ahead? Is there much AI used within the business?
So like by and large, we try not to talk too much about AI, because I think that it does sort of you turn some operators off. They hear a lot of it, and they're like, investors hear a lot of it. So, but obviously, we're hiring people with that skill set. We're hiring the smartest maths grads we can get out of top unis in the UK. So they have that a lot of that skill set, but like ultimately when it comes to the models, they really need to understand what's going on under the hood in terms of like actually building the models, and so they need to be able to go in and fix that. Mm-hmm. But, there's a lot of like sort of machine learning and things being used to shortcut wherever possible. And ultimately they want to join us because they want to work on cutting edge stuff. So there is a lot of that there, but I think like it's more about the modeling is where we would sort of position ourselves rather than being an AI first company or whatever.
It more complements your work rather than replacing it. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So if we could, I think it'd be really useful, we could talk through maybe a case study of how one of your predictive modelling or tech innovations have significantly enhanced an operator's offering. Have you got a nice example of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of core to everything we do. So, we're offering a player props product to an operator. They might have something like 200 markets on site prior to working with us, and then they integrate our offering, and we might end up with sort of like 2,000 markets for an event. So you're massively expanding what they can currently offer. But then we do also, I guess, like provide the ability to sort of break the product up. And so we had somebody come to us more recently, and they needed to have a better understanding of what the likely team sheet was going to be, right? So they could, I guess, focus their offering on players who were likely to start rather than just like offer the whole squad. So we're doing that anyway, so we're able to sort of break that part of the product out and then feed that into them so they can use that for the front end. Same client was then asking us, right, for their one of their other models, they just want to know, right, injury time minutes, so how many injury time minutes do we expect during a game, so we can break that out and provide that as an output. So there's a lot of, I guess, like models that go into producing the core product, but then we have the ability to sort of break out those outputs and provide them into larger tier one operators who might just want them just individual outputs to kind of tweak what their actually existing product is, rather than just wholesale replace their internal product.
I see. And what would you say is next for Sporting Risk in terms of product development or market expansion? What have you got kind of in the horizon for the brand?
So short term, it's the World Cup this year, so it's obviously really big push for us, particularly with it being in the US, like a good opportunity to bring some US customers on board. We've got licenses in almost all states now because we work with Entain and they provide BetMGM, so that's kind of led to us having to go through that process. So we want to leverage that, having done the hard work. We have a distribution agreement with Sportradar now, which means that almost all these operators have those sort of existing pipes from Sportradar, so we can actually get a product to market very quickly in those instances.
Wow.
It does. It's like, even with the World Cup, soccer is not necessarily the top 3 sport in the US, so it's often hard for operators to prioritize that. But with this distribution capability via Sportradar, we can kind of short circuit that, and we can get a product to market really quickly. So that's a big area of focus. Same thing really applies to LATAM, where we should have far more customers than we do with the strength of the soccer product we've got. So we'll be heading to more conferences over there this year because we haven't had time really in the last couple of years to get out there and push as hard as we should have out there, essentially. And then so longer term, as I said, we're rolling out new sports. The underlying technology we built at this point is essentially pretty much a big chunk of a sports book, the managed trading section of a sports book. So as we build out the smaller sports, let's say, then the obvious thing would be to then just start offering a full turnkey sports book and actually just manage the whole product on behalf of a brand, say, which we know that's quite a competitive space. There's quite a few businesses in there, but they've all been around for a while, and for the most part, they were all built before the sort of SGP builder era. So we feel quite strongly that we've got quite a unique angle to go and disrupt that. Basically, being based on the whole thing being based on simulations, being based on the SGP bet builder component. So leading with that is going to give us quite a unique offering as that comes around.
Of course, I think you've given us a really great kind of full-rounded vision of the business here. So yeah, really appreciate your thoughts today. Let's end with a bit of a personal one to round out the interview then. When you're not working on Sporting Risk, what do you like to do to unwind?
Yes, I don't know if it's unwinding, but I've got two kids who are very active and busy and good fun, and a good distraction if not necessarily necessarily unwinding.
No.
And like I said, just recently moved to Mallorca, so I've been taking up golf and trying to socialise by doing a pretty bad job of playing five-a-side football and all that kind of stuff. So, trying to do more sport at the moment, a bit more active lifestyle in between all the travelling and conferences and so on.
And average, what conferences are you expected to attend in 2026? Will we be seeing you at ICE?
ICE for sure, and then there's a couple in Brazil, I think, shortly after that. So at least one of those, and then it's like Miami, definitely. Well, the G2E and Lisbon are clashing, aren't they? And I would expect probably do about 6 or 7 conferences this year, I think. So that could be a decent number.
Yeah.
Got a new sales guy started, so he's taking on a lot of them as well. Which means we'll be at pretty much everyone. So great.
Thanks for your time today, Andy. Really appreciate it.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you. Bye.